We're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to officially call this TSAC board meeting to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Nick Najad,
Present.
Director Mike Kraus,
Present.
Claude Presnell,
Present.
Christina Podesta,
Present.
Ashley Neighbors.
I'm here for her day.
Treasurer, sorry. Greg Turner. Commissioner Schwinn. Randy Schultz.
Present.
And Flora Tidings is also on the phone.
Linda Martin.
Present.
Cyrus Vandendoost.
Present.
John Smorelli.
Present by phone.
Tiffany Summers. Tom Hughes.
Present.
Sharon Hayes.
Present by phone.
Carrie McInnes.
Present.
Sabrina Washington. And Charles Lane. Chairman Nick Najad, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We have the agenda and everyone's binder. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Nick Najad.
Approved.
Claude Presnell.
Approved.
Christina Podesta.
Approved.
Ashley Neighbor, or Treasurer Lillard.
Aye.
Greg Turner.
Aye.
Dr. Schulte.
Aye.
Linda Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Cyrus Vandendoost.
Aye.
John Smorelli.
Aye.
Tiffany Summers. Tom Hughes.
Aye.
Sharon Hayes.
Aye.
Carrie McInnes.
Aye.
Excellent. We'll move on to the next item, approval of the minutes from the August 17th, 2018 and March 11th, 2019 board meetings. The minutes from both meetings are next in your packets. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes to offer? If not, is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Nick Najad.
Aye.
Claude Presnell.
Aye.
Christina Podesta.
Aye.
Treasurer Lillard.
Aye.
Greg Turner. Vice Chancellor Schultz.
Aye.
Linda Martin.
Aye.
Cyrus Vandendoost.
Aye.
John Smorelli.
Aye.
Tiffany Summers. Tom Hughes.
Aye.
Sharon Hayes.
Aye.
And Carrie McInnes.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the chairman's report. My name is Tony Nick Najad. I'm the policy director for Governor Bill Lee and his designee on this board. I'm excited to be here with each and every one of you and looking forward to the opportunity to get to know you. As this is my first meeting, that is my report. And I will look forward to our next meeting. Next on the agenda is the executive director's report. So Director Kraus.
Yes, sir. I want to start off by thanking a board member who's going to be rotating off after long and faithful service. I would like to thank Carrie McInnes for her service on the TSAC board. We certainly hope this isn't her last role in state government. And if you all don't know this, Carrie came onto the board at a time we really needed a commercial lender, both statutorily and an active banker in TSAC's previous role as a lender. That is now no longer a TSAC role, but we've really enjoyed having you. And certainly, again, hope that you'll consider other roles in state board service in the near future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Krause. Where's the bubbles? You know, the champagne. Where's the sweet tea? I mean,
This is a state meeting, and you will not be champagne.
thank you.
I was
I
gonna
did say
second the
sweet
motion.
tea.
Yeah.
I did mention sweet tea, too.
That's right.
Thank you.
Bottle of water.
A bottle of water. Thank you all. It's been a wonderful experience.
One thing I wanted to do with the board before we dive in is really just kind of remind everyone and certainly anyone in the audience about the positive direction we're currently in right now in Tennessee regarding financial aid generally. And just to tease out a couple of data points. First and foremost, we're really grateful to the governor for his introduction of the GIVE Act, the governor's investment in vocational education. We will be working between now and fall of 2020 when the act becomes effective to promulgate rules and make sure that the colleges are ready. But when we think about the GIVE Act, obviously, we're thinking about dual enrollment deeply. We're trying to really work through who's taking dual enrollment and why. And Amanda Clayfine from the research staff has really been digging into that. And we're able to take a look at a dual enrollment metric that I think we would have been really excited about a few years ago. So just for perspective, since 2010-11, as you see here on this slide, dual enrollment in Tennessee has grown by 75%, which is really remarkable. And I would say left to its own devices, this growth is exactly the direction we'd like to see, but there's an opportunity here. So one thing we know about our dual enrollment students right now is they are overwhelmingly of high income, high academic achievement, and they're already going to college. And so we're excited about those students, of course, being able to show up to college in an advanced standing. What the GIVE Act will do is give us the opportunity to reach a different student, to reach students that would maybe be pursuing a technical or vocational pathway. But even in advance of the GIVE Act, this is exactly the kind of growth you'd like to see. One of the things that I think we want to ask all of the colleges to work with us on is as we think about implementing the GIVE Act, particularly at the community colleges and technical colleges, we're going to have a communications pathway between K-12 and those colleges that's very robust. I think that both parties have had equal challenges. On one end, you have K-12 and CTE pathways that they have often generated based on their view as an LEA. And then on the other end, we've had colleges offering dual enrollment based on their view. We're really going to have a joint view to make sure that the offerings that the GIVE Act is going to support are worthwhile for our students. But we take this as a very positive trend. Second, this piece of data, when we first saw it, we find it incredibly exciting for a few reasons. I don't think when we created Tennessee Promise, one of our policy goals was to reduce student death. It has absolutely helped reduce student death. And though I won't ascribe any causality to that because our research staff would get really mad, I would say it's very coincidental that in the 4 or 5 years we've had Tennessee Promise, this has happened. So one thing we're really proud of, as you all know, Tennessee's not competing against 49 states. We're normally competing against 4 or 5, and they are all regional partners. And we now have the second lowest debt in the SREB region for our graduating students. This is tremendous progress for our state. Similarly, this national data set's really exciting for us. So we have now become the 10th lowest debt in the nation. And that's actually already climbed. We were the 17th lowest just last year. We're now the 10th lowest student debt burden in the nation. And I think that all the financial aid officers out there that Tiffany's representing really ought to take this as this means great counseling is happening in financial aid offices. And I hope you all take that. And I will tell you to brag on our internal TSAC outreach team. This means great outreach is happening because we're linking students up with opportunities. And I continue to believe that for most students, student loans are a last resort rather than a first resort. So, Mr. Chairman, I would just submit these data points as proof points that Tennessee's financial aid vision is moving forward in a positive direction, and I think the GIVE Act will only add to that. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we'll have a report from the Tennessee Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, President Summers.
Hi. Yes, thank you, Chairman. The mission of the Tennessee Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators is to develop and maintain an organizational structure that promotes professional preparation and growth, collaboration, effectiveness, and mutual support of its diverse body of members as they strive to serve the need of students, families, institutions, and other constituencies in providing financial assistance to help meet these post-secondary educational expenses. We had several goals this year for 2018, 2019, and I'm pleased to say that we accomplished all of those goals. We did have a goal to have an official state Hill visit this year, but we did not have an official one, but we are appreciative of TSAC, THEC for always representing us well and representing our needs and what we process in a financial aid office across the state. We do have 2 professional development opportunities that we offer to our student or to our members each year. One is the fall training, which we do in 3 regions across the state, in Middle, East, and West Tennessee. We had over 100 members that participated in that and earned credentials in our national association with information on federal policy. We also have and are thankful for TSAC, who sponsors and helps sponsor and create those training events that would not be possible without their support and their expertise in that field. A couple of other things. We did have our spring conference in March. We had over 250 members that attended out in Murfreesboro. It was a great conference with a lot of information from the state and also from the federal perspective with our federal trainers. A couple of things to note on that I think were highlights of that is that we were able to raise over $3,000 for the March of Dimes, that we have a conference charity each year, and we were able to raise that money from our members. That was all member driven, that we raised to support and honor one of our board members that had an infant daughter that passed away. So we honored her and honored the March of Dimes with that contribution. We also were able to celebrate some milestones of several of our members. Sue Pettigo from Volunteer State Community College retired this year after over 40 years of service to that school. She has helped thousands upon thousands of students be able to obtain a degree from that school and from obviously from the state of Tennessee. So we want to congratulate her, but we are thankful for what she has done and been a part of with the not only within our association but for the students of Tennessee. Also, we honored Dick Smelser from Pellissippi State Community College, as well as Sanja McMullen from Sallie Mae, who have just been a tremendous have been tremendous in their efforts with the association, but also for support of the students in East Tennessee for Dick and his work at Pellissippi, but also Sanja throughout the state of Tennessee. There are plenty of other outstanding and talented TASA members who serve all of our students in Tennessee. While not only working with Tennessee students, these administrators also serve regional and national associations. It is an honor to tell you that Selena Tullis from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville is the president-elect of the Southern Association of Financial Aid Administrators, and also TSAC's own Leah Llewellyn and the state president of Tennessee also serve on the SASFA board. And then also Marion Dill from Lee University serves on the board at the National Association. So we have not only people that support our state, but also share our expertise and experience throughout the region and the country. TASFA is proud of the accomplishments of its members, and as the theme of our conference stated, our future is bright. TASFA remains a strong and physically sound organization representing 127 institutions in Tennessee and over 600 members. We are thankful for the support of TSAC and THEC. As a personal note, I thank you for the opportunity to serve this year. As you know, TASFA state president serves as each year, so there'll be a new person coming on in the next board meeting, but it has been an honor and a great responsibility to be at this table with all types of administrators and people in higher ed from the state of Tennessee. I'm excited to see what the future holds for Tennesseans and their pursuit of higher education, and this is the great state that I call my home. So thank you.
Tiffany, thank you so much for your service, and thanks again for that report. The next item on the agenda, we have several action items on page 2 of your packets. It begins, each of these items will require a roll call vote. We'll turn it over to Peter Abernathy to run through those items, starting with the selection of the 1920 officers and committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, those of you who've been here with us before have seen this come up each year. This is the slate of officers and committee members that we, by according to our bylaws, have to have in place for each academic year. So on the second page behind that tab is the slate of members, which incidentally happen to be the current slate of officers and committee members. So we are recommending then passage of these names for these positions to continue in their service in these roles.
Any discussion or questions regarding the slate of officers and committee members? If not, can I have a motion for approval?
Second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Nicknajad,
Aye.
Claude Presnell, Christina Podesta, Treasurer Lillard, Greg Turner, Vice Chancellor Schulte,
Aye.
Linda Martin,
Aye.
Cyrus Vandendoost,
Aye.
John Smorelli,
Aye.
Tiffany Summers,
Aye.
Tom Hughes,
Aye.
Sharon Hayes,
Aye.
Carrie McInnes.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is an item related to our Tennessee Promise partnering organization assignments. And if Mr. Abernathy, if you could give us some more background on that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item is pursuant to our rules, requires board approval anytime any of the county assignments with our partnering organizations in the Tennessee Promise program shifts. We were informed just recently that the READY organization, which previously had 5 counties, decided to back out of the Promise program. So we spoke with both the AIRS Foundation and the Tennessee Achieves organization, and they decided collectively that Tennessee Achieves would take those 5 counties. So on that second page in that behind that tab, you'll see the list of counties. Probably easier to say the 5 you'll see for AIRS, and then all of the other counties in the state will be with Tennessee Achieves beginning this next academic year. So our recommendation is for approval of this county assignment.
Any discussion or questions regarding the counties or the partnering organizations?
Second.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Can we call the roll?
Chairman,
Aye.
Claude Presnell.
Aye.
Christina Podesta.
Aye.
Treasurer Lillard.
Aye.
Greg Turner. Vice Chancellor Schulte.
Aye.
Linda Martin.
Aye.
Cyrus Vandendoost.
Aye.
John Smorelli.
Aye.
Tiffany Summers.
Aye.
Tom Hughes.
Aye.
Sharon Hayes.
Aye.
Carrie McInnes.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda for approval will be a discussion of our open records rules. Mr. Abernathy, if you...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in this tab, you'll see Rule 1640-01-30, which is our access to public records rules. A little background history on this. In 2016, the General Assembly passed a law that required all state agencies to adopt a policy regarding public records. TSAC actually had done this in 2011, and in 2017, the board approved an amendment to those policies, which were intended to mirror more closely the changes that have been made in the comptroller's model policy for open records. And then in 2018, legislation was passed that required all state agencies to promulgate rules for public records. So these rules were developed really in concert with the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. These are identical to their rules. And so what we have done was had a public hearing. We gave notice for this public hearing last year in 2018 and filed the rules along with that notice. The hearing was held, and as anticipated, no one from the public showed up. There were no comments submitted for these rules, and so our recommendation, Mr. Chair, is to adopt these rules as our access to public records.
And these rules are appear on tab IC in the document for further reference if anyone needs to refer back to them. Any discussion or questions regarding the rules, or if not, do we have a motion for approval?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board adopt these rules as rulemaking hearing rules and that the board authorize the executive director to make any necessary technical corrections to these rules, including changes required by the Attorney General's office after review.
Second.
Quite formal. That's pretty good.
Just off the top of my head.
Right off the top of your head.
Well done.
Claude Presnell,
Aye.
Christina Podesta,
Aye.
Treasurer Lillard.
Aye.
Greg Turner.
Aye.
Randy Schulte.
Aye.
Linda Martin.
Aye.
Cyrus Van Doost.
Aye.
John Smarelli.
Aye.
Tiffany Summers. Aye. Tom Hughes.
Aye.
Sharon Hayes.
Aye.
Carrie McInnes.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Board members, the next set of items on the agenda are for discussion. The materials for those are not included in the packet other than a very brief description. Those will be visible on the slides, which are up on the projector before you. First item up is an update on the Tennessee Promise Scholarship from Mr. James Snyder. James, if you can.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director Krause, members of the board. Bring you guys a brief update on the Tennessee Promise Scholarship Program. For many of you, you've seen this slide and most of our other slides, so it's just kind of adding information to these as we continue along. But for reference, we've continued to leave each of the prior cohorts visible. So as you can see, we highlight a few of the areas, but one trend we really like to, that was surprising to us as we kind of looked at it, was applications and then the FAFSA completion. So as you can see, we continue to see increased application numbers. That's the fascinating thing to us within the administrative group. That year one, the thought was we'll see 25,000 applications. We saw 58,000. And now not only has it increased the second year, the third year, we're over 64,000 for the fifth year. The same can be said with the FAFSA completions, and we're just honing our skills as we go on. And as we launched FAFSA Frenzy, I think with the 2018 cohort it was with, so we just continued and doubled down our efforts as we go on there. And then to skip forward a little bit and look at the enrollment numbers, that's another one that's been fascinating to me from my end, is that we started at 16.2, we're at 18.2, and we've rounded these off just for the sake of discussion. With this latest cohort, all of the numbers in the 2019 cohort are still estimates, as we are still awarding students within that academic year cohort. To me, what's most fascinating about this is the costs. The fact that the costs have actually gone down, average awards per student. If we were to look at this, and on the next slide, we'll look at just singular cohorts. But as we look at this in the kind of the aggregate, the 1,030 average award for the 2019 AY, if you were to look at just the freshman year, the new student cohort, that award currently is at about 960, which is tremendous. So what that indicates to me, just looking at it anecdotally, is that we have a larger percentage of zero award students that are maintaining eligibility and participating in the program moving forward. Average expenditures for this year are expected to be about 28.5, which is lower than originally projected. So.
Just a point of order is that we are currently number one in the nation for FAFSA, as we have been for several years. And that is all due to, where's Diane? Diane Lejean and her team, who at the height of FAFSA season are literally doing 400 meetings a month. with high school students across the state. So we're grateful to Diane, and I think there might be other outreach team members here, but thank you. We're #1 in the nation. We're excited about that.
So now just to break this down, looking at each individual cohort and their costs within that year, which is kind of representative of kind of the trends of where the expenditures for that year. So 16.3, that for some context for those that haven't maybe heard the presentation, that was the year we had some verification meltdown, which we've addressed, thankfully, but then increased to 17.1, 17.8, and now we've crested 18, 18.2-ish. But then the expenditures are still remaining constant, which has been tremendous. So if we looked at that, we're less than $1,000 per student, breaking that down for just the incoming freshman cohort. And if you looked at that from bringing in from the other slide, every year it's been around 1,000. So we're down about 960, maybe a little less than that this year, which is really good for us as we're looking at expenditures, which will, as we look at Tennessee Reconnect in a few minutes, plays even better into the whole discussion, the whole picture. So then just a brief overview of some of the characteristics of the first three cohorts for whom we have these characteristics available. And this is directly from the Tennessee Promise Annual Report. So if you wanted to look at this with more robust information. And so I know if Madison were here, she might strangle me a little bit because I did round these for the sake of discussion. Madison is much more data driven, much more exact. So it was like 49.7, 50.3 types of things. So for the sake of discussion, we wanted to round these off just for presentation's sake. Looking at the trends, we're holding fairly constant from cohort 1 to cohort 3. We're not seeing much change, if you will, in who applies versus who enrolls across the years. The average ACT is remaining fairly constant. First generation statistics are as well across the year. So these are just looking at these, some questions of what, some gives me some work to talk through with our data team of how we can best serve different populations of students moving forward. So yes, sure.
One thing that's interesting to me, among many things on that chart, is the percentage of first generation. If you think about the impact to a family who nobody has ever gone to college in that family, and it's consistently, for the most part, going up. I mean, we're getting close to, it'll be 50% if it keeps trending like it is.
Absolutely, yes, tremendous.
How do you determine first?
So,
Go ahead, James.
So to my knowledge, and anyone can correct me, to my knowledge, that's a derivative of FAFSA information. So it is a self-reported stat. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes. So we are dependent upon the student's information from the FAFSA. So we're getting that indicator on the FAFSA. So it's going to come in as yes, no, or unknown. So we do have some within an unknown population who could also be first generation students who are not captured just based on how we're identifying them. Yes, ma'am.
And then at some point when the time is appropriate, will you add another column that says graduates?
Yes, so we are working. That's something that we're continuing to work through. I would hope, and I'm not going to put this on them, but this might be the year at the end of, as we get data into the SIS at the end of this year, we would be at 5 years. So we might need another year before we would really start to see, we could see community college graduates, but if we were wanting to see the end result of a baccalaureate degree program, that might be this year or even next year before we would really be able to see that. And Amanda or someone, she's shaking her head, so I might not be.
I mean, right now we know some things, though.
Yes, we do know some things.
So we've doubled the community college graduation rate within 2 years, which, as Randy knows, it's not super good, the 2-year graduation rate typically. It's better with the Promise cohort, right around over 20% within 2 years, which is anytime you double a stat like that, that's progress. But I think the most important stat is the overall retention rate, to James's point, is 51%. So that means 51% of Promise students from those cohorts have either graduated or are still enrolled. And that is contrasting with a 20%, low 30% number. I mean, I think the perspective for everybody that was around when Promise was created, we hoped it would help first gen students because frustratingly, the college going rate during the time of Hope went down. Hope didn't compel students to college, right? It helped students who were already going to college, which was a noble goal. But to be able to bring students in who maybe weren't going, Our college going rate shows that. It went up 7% the first year of promise. We've now leveled off. Second, to see these first gen students comprise such a large part of the population, I think it's pretty gratifying in terms of fulfilling. And then for the retention rate to be what it is, I would have hoped for a retention rate in the 40s. Anything over 50 is extraordinary, remembering the academic hindrances that many of these students have. But I think we end up getting a more holistic look once they all transfer. And I am looking at Amanda now. Next year or two would be fair, but we're monitoring the retention rate as we speak, and it's right at 51.
We have one more. So I'm assuming these are just descriptive data for, in other words, like your applicant, of the applicants, 64 are white, 22% African American, and then of those who enrolled, 77% are white, 12%. So are we trying to take a look at the melt on the African American population, because that's concerning?
Yeah, so that's the type of statistic I would be looking at. I would hope to dig into from my end to start identifying where are we losing that student. Are we losing them due to verification melt, or are we losing them due to just general summer melt, or is it something to do with the eligibility pipeline? Is it something within that pipeline?
So the application data are those who just the initial enrollment. So that's
58
prior to any of the benchmarks, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, so it'd be the 58.2 in cohort 1, the 59, the 60, the 60-ish there, and then from there it'd be the 16.2, the 17.1, the 17.7.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How does this enrollment, as far as disperse out through statewide counties, meaning by county? I mean, I'm sure you're tracking that too. Like, is the western part of the state more engaged? Because I remember at a board meeting, might have been last year, where we saw some sort of chart or picture that had the different counties. Do you remember that?
I vaguely, yes. So if I can deflect and promise you a deliverable, I can look to my Tableau wizard to help me maybe build a dashboard. So we have the data where we can plug it in and see it on a map, and I don't want to misspeak. So
it'd be interesting to see of our counties, those counties that are considered distressed counties in Alma Rural, how many of the students are engaged and participating in this, as opposed to some more metropolitan refined counties.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So then we're all everyone is familiar with this slide, just a general waterfall, if you will, looking at the class of 19. And kind of just rehashing what I've shown you before, starting with 64,000 up to mandatory meeting attendance at 42.5-ish. Community service deadline, we have about 3 weeks to go, so we're moving forward with anticipating tremendous numbers of community service submission. And this is the one that every year surprises me. And this is a single cohort review. The fact that last year I believe we had 25,000 students submit community service, and we only ended up with 18,000 enrollees. There's nothing wrong with that statistic. It's just always fascinated me why the students go all the way through the process and then choose to enroll at another institution. And it defends my conversation point anytime I'm in an audience with high school students, keep every avenue open that you possibly can. This is an avenue of potential financial aid. There's no reason to close that door until you're absolutely 110% sure you don't need to go through that door. And so that tells me that about 7,000 students last year, it was an option all the way up to August, essentially. And so then we'll anticipate the same this year with an inflated community service submission number with an enrollment number somewhere in that 18 to 18.6, 19 would be awesome, somewhere in that range again. So.
James?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a way of tracking those 7,000 students, roughly 7,000 students? Are they going to other institutions out of state? Are they going into the workforce? Are they going into the military?
So that would be where I would look to Amanda's team. We're looking at the SIS. We're connecting that data with the SIS to know where those students are. Some are enrolling at four-year institutions. Others are enrolling at TACUA institutions that are not participating in eligible programs.
Gotcha.
Others are joining the military. Others are leaving the state. So yes. And then others, for some reason, are not enrolling as well. So there is a group within that cohort that does everything and then chooses not to enroll. And that is also another piece of this puzzle, identifying what are the factors leading to the choice not to enroll. Okay, so this was an interesting piece that was instituted. Actually, started in the fall of 18. Will be continuing in the fall of 19. Just a brief overview of our college coaching initiative. So this is with Tennessee Achieves and the Ayers Foundation, high impact coaching model. So this was a small appropriation to target interventions at our most at risk students. So, and this provided funding for Ayers and Tennessee Achieves to bring team members in to identify, and I believe they started with our zero EFC students who were indicated as first generation. So they are the most at-risk students, to provide them with additional wraparound support. So they already have, from an Achieves perspective, they already have the assigned mentor. But this is that added layer of support to not only increase the enrollment, but the persistence and leading to the success. Okay. Yes.
And what we've heard from the first year of this, just so the board knows, I mean, the reality is, so the TCATs do a great job of this. The TCATs, there are no choices. You decide to go to a TCAT and what you want to study. I think the community colleges still have a lot of choices. And if you're a first generation low income student, I think often in the face of 10,000 choices, students don't make many. These coaches are spending most of their work helping students negotiate the logistics of college. And both Ayers and Tennessee Achieves, what they bring to the table is they understand their local areas really well. I think they have relationships with high school counselors that are deep and meaningful, so they're able to actually reach into the senior year. But the feedback we've heard, for whatever it's worth, Randy, is it's all about logistics. It's all about helping students understand a pathway and assembling the Tetris game that is applying and moving through college.
That's right.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to pause here. Are there any additional questions, discussion points we wanted to talk through?
One of the radical changes that this process of the Tennessee Promise has evoked in the enrollment dynamics is that 12 years ago, when I was at Chattanooga State Community College, fully 50% of our admissions took place in the last 4 weeks before the first day of class. So there was really no practical way to get to know who these students were, what they wanted to do, what they might be able to do, what their needs were, what their remedial needs might be. It was just a rush to get them enrolled, and then they were largely left on their own. Now our colleges are meeting and greeting these students in March, April, May. Back to Chattanooga State 3 years ago when this started, they had more students attend orientation in June of that first year of the Promise than the previous year, the entire summer. So the Executive Director Krause's point, the opportunity that we have to make contact with these students and to get them on a pathway, steer them, whether it's to a transfer degree or a technical program or a career program, has been highly, highly enhanced. And thus, I think that contributes largely to this persistence rate, this fall-to-fall persistence that we are so encouraged by.
Thank you.
James, I think we have another presentation on the agenda. Yeah. If that's it for the Promise update, if you could go ahead and give us your update on the Reconnect.
Will do. And if just a point of privilege, I'm going to actually ask Mary Laffin to come and assist me. She's going to provide a bit of the characteristics. So I'm going to talk finances real quick for a moment, and then I'm going to allow Mary to talk from the kind of the support side and the characteristics of the class. So some of this information we have seen in the past. The increased application number we have seen, I believe it was 34,000 at an earlier board meeting. So as of last week, we're at 41,600 applications. It's a tremendous number when you consider that we were looking at, our plan was 10,000 applications, and that was kind of how fiscal notes and other plans were based. For the fall, well, for the year, 17,273 students enrolled. Okay, that's a tremendous accomplishment. And I joke with Mary, I'm the money guy. She's the guy. She's the lady that's going to be out there beating the drum and getting the students in. I'm helping process all the payments, and so as my eyes continue to get larger, the more students we pay. It's fantastic news. And anecdotally, we've had 350 students complete degrees so far this year. That's from the fall and from the spring. It's a small number, but every degree that we see is a step in the right direction. So that's why we're doing work like this. Okay, so that I just wanted to throw that out there. So 13,930 in the fall, an additional 3,100 in the spring to bring us to that 17,000 number. 73% fall to spring retention of eligibility, meaning that if they were paid in the fall, they were paid in the spring. That's a pretty tremendous number. To compare that to Promise, we're at about 76, 77 on Promise. So it's right in the same ballpark. And that's a tremendous number when you look at the adult student who has other barriers, which Mary will address in a few moments. Current expenditures at $25.3 million. Anticipated expenditures were not $25.3 million. I believe we were at 10, 11 was our original anticipated expenditure. Average award at $1,465. A couple of points to help explain that from my perspective. 40% of this group has a 0 EFC. 35% of this group is a student that has a 0 award, what we would call tuition and fees covered by gift aid student. And this is just anecdotal, so please, I would look to the research team to help me find out a real answer to this. Just on the face, that tells me that that's students that have federal SAP issues. If you have a 0 EFC, I should not be awarding you a monetary award. But due to federal SAP issues, you could not receive a federal Pell Grant, which would then lead us to award Tennessee Reconnect in its place. And that was the intent of the program, was to allow an adult to be able to come back and pursue an associate degree. That's why there was no requirement for federal SAP within the program. So that helps to kind of point to some of the increased expenditure.
So especially to the treasurer and F&A, what I'd say is this was driven also by an ad campaign. $1.5 million on TV that drove a lot of these applications. We need to watch this fall really closely to see if $25 million is a steady state. I don't think it will be. Wherever we end up, we have to keep an eye towards the larger lottery net proceeds spending. That includes Promise, Reconnect, and our hope to continue to look at other things we can do with the lottery. I will tell you, I would look hard at the SAP issue. If we have another year like this, I think we've got to look hard at whether or not a student who can't meet SAP requirements and thus can't be awarded Pell, if we might need to modify. It's too early to say that definitively. We'll know probably, we'll be through with awarding by, I'm looking at all TSAC technical people, late October, early November.
Mid-July. Yeah, late July. Yeah.
I mean, for next year, though, we'll have a really good sense of what fall looks like. Right.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah. Yeah, mid-October is fair.
So let us report back to you then, and we'll have a feel.
Yeah.
Oh, how much did we budget for? Am I correct? Because somebody just said 11, and then it says 25. And of course,
So this
I'm
is
sitting
more.
next to the treasurer, so I'm like, how much did we budget for? And I'm a banker here, so
Sure.
of course, so I'm thinking, okay, and where's the shortfall coming from?
The good news is it's coming out of what is essentially after we pay all of the lottery programs bills, Hope, not TSA, Hope, all of the other programs, GAMS, Helping Heroes, etc. What's left is then used to pay Promise and Reconnect. This year, those proceeds were $66 million after all the bills were paid. So I would say, though we overshot a budget projection, we are well within the spending range. We have no concerns there. We don't want to make it a habit, though.
No, because then we get back to where we were a few years ago.
Well, and moreover, the less
The other
money
thing.
that remains out of the proceeds is the less amount of money that's able to stay with Promise and hopefully get the program into steady state.
You might be glad I'm leaving at this last meeting. It's my last meeting. I
No,
see
ma'am.
December
This is a
7th,
very helpful
so-
perspective.
Mr. Treasurer?
To second what Director Krause said, even though the budget thing is something that catches your eye, he's right. The longer term issue is the sustainability of it going forward, because if you start stress testing the lottery revenues and wondering, we've never really had a downturn of lottery revenues, which is fortunate for Tennessee. But something we continue to watch, and that the longer term issue is one that has caught our attention about this. And I'm glad for all of the great results that we've generated, as y'all have pointed out in your presentations. We're educating more Tennesseans and getting the job done here, and that's really, really good. We've just got to figure out how we keep this horse running in the future. So.
Right. That was all for my transition to me.
Hi, my name is Mary Lappin. I'm the Tennessee Reconnect Community Network Director here at TSAC. And I'm just going to do a quick dive into a little bit about the applicants. So as James mentioned, we had just over 41,000 applicants for the 18-19 year. The average age of our applicants was 34, with the annual income of 50% of our applicants being under $25,000 a year. 86% of our applicants plan to work while enrolled. 56% of them reported having children. These two data points I'll come back to in a minute because they're important to how we serve these students. The enrollment status was pretty evenly split, with 35% no college experience, 34% attended in the past, and 27% currently enrolled. I do think the 35% does bear highlighting because that transfers to about 14,000 Tennesseans who hadn't been to college before who have now taken the first step to complete that credential. I think that's a promising number when we think about credentialing our workforce here in Tennessee. So I mentioned that all of our students who have children and who thinking about those adult learner barriers, those specific students, they necessitate specific needs and specific support services, excuse me, too many S's, for our students. We aim to meet those needs with Navigate Reconnect. Navigate Reconnect is a new initiative here at TSAC, which will launch on July 1st. Navigate Reconnect will provide outreach and support services to our adult learners and to our reconnectors across the state. This work is not new. We've been doing this work and working with adult learners and supporting them through wraparound services for several years with our Tennessee Reconnect communities. However, as we think about how do we best serve these large numbers of Reconnect students, we had to think about it in a different way. As James said, we've had a really great response to our Tennessee Reconnect grant. It's a great problem to have, but how can we efficiently and sustainably serve all of these students? So with that in mind, we are launching Navigate Reconnect, which will have 4 regions. Each region will have a regional director and several regional navigators who will be supporting those students to and through higher education. We work with our students from the moment they decide to go to college all the way to when they have a graduation cap on. Each student receives institution-neutral, high-touch, wraparound navigation services. I think the most important note for this transition is that our students should feel very little, if any, shift in their support. Our students who are already receiving these supports at the community level will still be receiving these supports. However, we can now extend this reach to more students through this model.
Thank you, James and Mary, for that update. Next on the agenda, we'll have Tim Phelps with an update on the Tennessee Student Assistance Award.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a brief update on the TSA program. The total available funding that we had for the TSA program for the current year is about $100.6 million. Expenditures as of last week were just under $85 million, and we've made these awards to about 51,000 students. We estimate the total amount of program funds that will be transferring to the reserve will be about $15.5 million, and that'll bring the total TSA reserve to just over $16 million. Looking forward to next year, we will have almost $118 million for the program. That'll include $5 million that we'll use from the reserve. We also were fortunate enough to receive $12.3 million from the governor's budget. If we expend the full $118 million, then we'll still have a reserve balance of about $11 million, which will be 9 to 10% of our total available funding, which is within the range that the board approved at the last meeting, giving us the authority to do that. So we've awarded students past the February 1 deadline, and have made that through students who have successfully completed the FAFSA through May 1. We're essentially looking on a month-by-month basis to make sure that we still have enough funding to award 2 students. We'll do that for June in the next week to 2 weeks, and do that throughout the year to make sure that we fully expend the almost $118 million. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So, yeah. So going up to May 1, are we still pretty much just awarding 0 EFCs, or do we have we've got some additional population in there?
You've got plenty of money to award everybody.
So are we still using the 2100 cutoff?
We are.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And do you know about still though? You think when you said we have plenty of money to fund everybody, is it fully funded then? Is that what you're saying?
I think we're going to be in that neighborhood.
Wow.
Getting close to that. Part of the benefit this year that we'll have, like I mentioned, the 118 million, we're taking 5 million from the reserve.
Right.
But Leah Llewellyn, who oversees the TSA program, and I have discussed that we're going to be awarding. We feel like we're going to be awarding funds through next year, even through early 2020.
Yeah.
But that remains to be seen. We're, like I said, we do it on a month by month basis. It's just the easiest way to award those students. But
well, that's fabulous news, because I think the last time we met, we were thinking we were still about, we were still 20, 30 million shy of being fully funded. So, I mean, this is a great position to be in. Obviously, I know we're taking $5 million out of reserve, which it would be good if we didn't have to do that. It'd be nice to have left that there. But a 2100 EFC is still a very, very low income family. And
those are, sorry.
Well, just saying this will impact what our budget request is going to end up being.
Yeah.
And so I hope we are able to have a robust discussion. It'd be nice to actually move it even beyond the 2100.
And that you just made my point. The couple of items that we've talked about in-house, do we increase the EFC or do we increase the awards, the award amount? So those are things that we've tossed around, but it's early. We need to see how we do for the 1920 academic year.
If you don't mind, when we have that discussion, it'd be nice to know how long we've had the 2100 EFC. I think it's been as long as I've been around. That's a long time. That's 30 years. Anyway, so how long we've been operating off of it, and then also how long our award amounts. Obviously, they've been stagnant, so we haven't kept up with inflation at all on those. So those would be two things for us to have a good, robust discussion.
Yeah, and you were on the board. I'm not sure if anyone else would have been, but when we changed the award amounts, since you've been around 30 years or so, but we changed the award amounts essentially to flat award amounts from what used to be that monstrous scale that we had or chart, but and we flattened the award amounts out and then simplified the program. So that's been going on 10 years now, but I'm not sure about the 2100 EFC.
Which that was a smart move. Yeah. That's really good news.
Well, and be remiss not to thank the governor for the investment. Yeah. We need to let this ride, we think. Let's see where this gets us with this additional level, and then be able to report back to the board in the midst of next academic year. I think you'd have a feel, Leah, about what a budget request should be. But, I mean, this has put us in a posture I've never seen where we're legitimately thinking we're going to be able to reach most of the students that were in our queue.
Yeah. So, yeah, please let the governor know we're very grateful.
Sure will. Tim, are applications holding steady, or is demand changing at all, or is this against declining demand? I mean, where are we?
I'll look to Leah.
Pretty static.
Is it okay? Yeah.
But Tony, to that point, with our FAFSA rate as high as it is, we really have penetrated the full population. We had a huge uptick on applicants when we did the Hope Scholarship program because the FAFSA was the application for it. But with Tennessee Promise, we really are penetrating that low-income family group that unlike we ever have before. So that's a good sign. That's a real good sign.
So we're not predicting any untapped population that may drive up demand in future years, or not a significant one at least.
Go ahead, Mike.
At an 80% FAFSA completion level, which is where we're at, you're essentially reaching every student that would likely consider college. The question, as Dr. Presnell just put it, then becomes, do you think about how you serve the ones you have a little differently, either with award amounts, or do we say 2,500 EFC? And we need to model that for the board, and will. we've never been able to think entrepreneurially with TSAA because we were normally treading water every year. This is a new reality.
Great. Any more questions for Tim? Tim, thank you for that presentation. Last up on the discussion agenda is a legislative update for items impacting TSAC. Mr. Abernathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, behind item 2D are several bills that passed this past session, 4 of which have a direct impact on our financial aid programs. Those are first Public Chapter 385, which brings in William R. Moore College of Technology. This is a school, a private nonprofit school in Memphis that is structured, and their curriculum and courses are very much like our own TCAT programs here in the state, and they have been asking for several years now for eligibility for the Promise Scholarship, and that did pass this year. The second item there is Chapter 203. This is the Governor's Give Act. You heard Director Krause earlier give kind of a broad overview of this program. Some of the nuts and bolts, though, to this. Currently, a student who takes 4 dual enrollment courses is awarded $500 in each of the 2 courses, $300 for the third one, and $0 for the fourth one. What this does is it gives the student who is enrolled in identified high need course or high need programs, high demand programs, it would give those students for their first 4 courses tuition and mandatory fees. So essentially the difference then between that student and a student outside of those high demand programs would be that their awards would continue to go up with tuition inflation each year, as opposed to staying at that current 500, 500, 300, excuse me, 200, not 300, that awarding schedule that we have in place right now. So there would be an annual increase based on the tuition increases. So that is the big difference there. Another one, though, is that these high demand programs are going to be determined by TSAC, and we will do that in consultation with THEC, of course, and we will be looking at various reports that are published by Department of Labor, ECD, Education, and THEC, and we'll be looking at a variety of those reports to determine what would be the high need programs that we would be able to fund, and start looking at those for identification for these increased award amounts. This is still somewhat of a work in progress. I mean, the bill just passed, and we're still putting together some ideas, but we'll be getting back to the board with some rules probably this fall in our fall meeting.
Peter?
The other part, yes, sir.
There's 2 questions of what you've covered today. You mentioned the Give Act is going to fund 4 courses at ongoing tuition and fees. Does that apply both to the community colleges and to the TCAT? So that, it's very easy to say X amount of dollars per course, because we have, in the community colleges, we understand those are going to be roughly 3 credit hour courses, and we can prescribe a set amount for them. But the costing, the expense of a TCAT program is not as consistent. And
right. No, I believe the intent is to do both the community college and the TCAT awards.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And the
yes.
second question I had, when you mentioned about the high demand programs, one of the questions that we've received at the Tennessee Board of Regents is, will these programs be universal across the state, understanding that there are regional needs that are sometimes highly disproportionate from, let's say, West Tennessee, the greater Memphis area, for example, with things like biotechnology and then in Middle and East Tennessee, automotive, those kinds of things.
That's a great question. I'll turn to Director Krause for this. I would say I think that's part of the discussion still that's ongoing.
It's early.
It's early, but we're cognizant. It takes a while to build a program, right? Especially if we want K-12 institutions partner with colleges. So I feel a little bit of a ticking clock. We'll rely heavily on CBER at UT to do labor forecasting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us intuitively, you probably have a sense of what these degrees are going to be, but we want to turn to Bill Fox and his team and say, based on the Future of Work Task Force, which will meet again in September, what are the 10 fields Tennessee is going to need? I'm just going to tell you, Dr. Schulte, I don't think that's going to be what are the 10 fields East needs, Middle needs, and West needs. I think we would probably try to stay at a taxonomy level high enough to say something that's uniform across all. The other question we've gotten from TBR that I think is worth highlighting is we've had community colleges say, what if they're enrolled in a high need degree program, but you got to take gen ed too? And the answer is yes, you do. So obviously students who are going to get an associates of science in mechatronics are still going to need to take English 1010. And if they're enrolled in that course, I think our intent is we're going to pay for it as long as they're enrolled in the high need degree. That's a pretty consistent question we've gotten. I think it's a good question.
Thank you.
One other note on this bill is that this program is slated to begin in the 2020-21 academic year. So we still have a year before this is implemented. The next bill, Chapter 469, is Middle College Scholarship. This simply raised the award amount from $1,200 a year to $2,000 a year for those students enrolled in the middle college program. The fourth is Chapter 482, which adds 2 additional awards for dual enrollment. So currently, the dual enrollment award is capped at 8 total courses for any student during their junior and senior years of high school. This would increase that to 10, a total of 10. And then finally, this one does not have a direct impact on our programs per se, but I actually looked this morning and it has been assigned to public chapter now. It's 507 if you're taking notes. But this authorizes online sports betting here in the state. The reason this is significant to us is that and I did not follow so much the content of the bill as much as the fiscal note. The fiscal note identified as testimony was given in the legislature that this was a conservative estimate, but their estimate is that roughly $8 million of revenue would be directed specifically for Tennessee Promise. And that begins in year 1, which is this year. This is effective July 1. So we'll see this bill go into place this next academic year. The other large pot of money is in year 1 estimated to be around $20 million that would go into the TELS revenue pot. And then by year 2, that would be increased to roughly $40 million, maybe a little bit over $40 million. Now, there was some contrary testimony given by one opposition group, and their statement was that in other states that have passed similar laws, they also had very optimistic revenue forecasts, which came in far below their anticipated amounts. So this is still wait and see for us, but if it does pan out that these estimates are even close to accurate, it would mean a significant amount of revenue both to the TELS programs and to Tennessee Promise.
I think that we need to do a better job of educating about TSAA. I would love to have had that money going into the need-based aid program. That's me.
Well,
and that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, and thank you. I see we are coming up just over an hour. That was the last item on our agenda. Does anyone have any other business that needs to come before the board today? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
I like that you built in some suspense.
Well,